Well, thank you very much. And let's just talk a little bit about what is going on in the industry today. So, in my space and the way I like to kind of do things, we talk about the word of the day, and it's kind of how I kind of get my thoughts around. And if I look over the IT industry, the word of the day is hybrid. With a few exceptions out there, organizations with a few pure born in the crowd organizations such as like Uber or some of these latest platforms, organizations really have a hybrid environment. Some people call them a multi-cloud environment, but they're operating, on-prem services that they maintain as well as consuming SaaS services. So today we're going to cover, what drives organizations to have these hybrid cloud deployments. We're going to talk about what security issues can come up from these hybrid deployments. We're going to talk about how a modern identity and access management system can overcome those security concerns. And then we're going to look at what does a typical migration look like and a brief customer use case to round out the presentation. So a lot to get through here in the next 15 minutes, but I think we'll be able to do it. So as I said, it's not just me in the industry saying people are running hybrid. We just had a recent Identity Live event from ForgeRock where 86% of our respondents polled that hybrid was going to be their IT deployment model of choice for at least the next 5 years. So some people are looking at more than that, but for at least the next 5 years, you're looking at 86% of the respondents said hybrid. This really, aligns well with another poll out there by an independent organization called Flexera that had about an 87% respondents say that they were going to have a hybrid deployment model. So one of the things that I hear a lot and is really a myth out there is that everybody feels like they're going to be totally cloud in the next year or 2 years, at a very short time horizon. But that just simply isn't the case. Organizations, they really want to adopt the cloud, but there's barriers that just prevent them from doing that. And some of that is that their IP and their legacy systems that are their bread and butter are still just very much rooted in on-prem and can't easily be moved. Also, there's a lot of security issues when you start trying to secure users' access to legacy mainframes that are on-prem through that traditionally were protected by a security perimeter, all the way out to SaaS applications that are just completely available on the internet. So there's a lot of complications to think through there. And one of those big ones that we're going to talk about today is you have these different identity silos, right? So you need to manage identities in more than one place, and that just inherently brings in risk. So organizations, they really view hybrid as a business enabler. And so they want to push to adopt these SaaS applications wherever possible. They want to gain those benefits of, quick deployment time, lower operating costs, and really increase their business agility. And this proves to be true whether this is a workforce environment or if this is a SIAM environment. Organizations really want to get these new capabilities out there quickly. And then if you look over 2020, this has really been fueled by COVID, right? I mean, this COVID has really added rocket fuel to this digital transformation. And that was really summed up. I couldn't have done it any better than the Microsoft CEO, Satya Nadella, said, in their earnings call that they've seen 2 years of digital transformation in just 2 months. So, a lot of this is because organizations have to react to wild shifts in user interaction. So if you think about some organizations had complete work from home workforces, you have now teledoc medicine, you have e-commerce that went from, you have just business in general that went from 80% in person to 90% online. So organizations had to get services and had to get capabilities out there quickly. And the easiest way to do that was through SaaS and that digital transformation. So when they look at hybrid, what they look at it as a way that enables them to innovate quickly, deploy quick time to value and extra services out there without the inherent risk of moving everything all at one time. So it really allows them to maintain their core business and add new capabilities very quickly. So, given the new hybrid approach, the organizations have for their IT, they need a new identity and access management system to handle that, right? And so there's a lot of reasons and business drivers out there for a new identity and access management system, and of course they're turning to the cloud to look for a software as a service IAM solution as well. And up until recently, that wasn't something that was available. Most of those cloud identity and access management solutions were really, focused on enabling cloud apps and other services, and didn't really do much for their on-prem environment. And then, the legacy systems that were really good at enabling on-prem and could handle cloud, they just don't handle it quickly. So what you ended up with was these, two identity silos at the very least. Nowadays, things are different. There's cloud services out there that can handle everything, and they can do it quickly. And that's really important right now, because security has become more important than ever in 2020. And as any organization shifts, the bad people are out there trying to hack in and take advantage of any security flaw that's out there. So if you look at what's going on, according to Verizon, 67% of security breaches are due to credential theft. And then if you couple that with Google reporting that since COVID was launched, there was a 350% increase in phishing attacks and websites that are out strictly to get people to give them their username and password. And so that's a real problem for all organizations, whether they're dealing with customers or whether they're dealing with their workforce. But then if you add on top of that, 20% of organizations as of August had some sort of security breach due to a remote worker at home from COVID, and that was from malware bytes. So what you're seeing is you have a lot of people working on now not controlled networks from their house, and they don't necessarily have the right password policies or security in place. So what's driving the need for a new identity and access management system is, number one, increasing that security of your customers, right, and of your users. So you want to be able to deploy the latest technologies that are out there. So some of those things are passwordless, usernameless, and then you can also look at those invisible type of security features like device locate, whether it's a known device or whether you're in a geolocation or things like that, to increase that security without actually impacting your end user. Also, a big thing that we see is that, the password reset and password management isn't always the smoothest. So you want to look at organizations that can help you enforce strong password policies and really be able to do, integrated password resets as well, because that's your basic premise and your basic starting point for security. The second thing is you want to look at reducing risk, right? So as I said, if you have multiple identity silos, you really start opening yourself up for a risk of having conflicting security policies, different policies on different applications. And what that'll do is that allows for infiltration of one side or the other. So you want to be able to have one security policy that spans the whole organization. And so you need an identity and access management system that can do that. Obviously, if you're looking at the cloud, you want to reduce costs. You want to reduce that infrastructure cost, as well as all the other costs that go along with personnel of maintaining just the infrastructure and the underlying OS for security patches, and then upgrading the identity and access management solution. And then, if you start thinking about security is always evolving. So as new security technologies come out, you want to be able to consume them quickly, as opposed to having to go through an upgrade process. So here's another place where you're reducing costs and you're increasing your security. And then lastly, you need to be able to increase speed to value. So there's no point in going out and wanting to consume all these SaaS applications and deploy them quickly if you can't secure them and enable authentication and security on them just as quickly. So you need a new solution, a modern solution that's able to do that in a matter of hours or days, as opposed to weeks and months. So that's really what's driving this need for people to go out and find a new identity and access management solution, and why they're looking at the cloud. And so if you're looking at identity and access management solution to secure your hybrid cloud, to secure applications on-prem or in your multi-cloud, because that's the other thing people talk about when you operate your data center in Google or Amazon or Azure, or and then you have your SaaS applications. There's a few things you need out there, and so one of the things you really need to look at is, if you're going to use one solution and do that, you want to have a common architecture between both of them, so that when you make a change in one, it's picked up by the other one. Or if you have to configure both, you're using the same technology, you're using the same commands, you're using the same terminology. Makes it much easier to have your unified policies and things like that. Another thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have deployment flexibility and predictable pricing. So, our solution, if you get the ForgeRock Identity Cloud, whatever you license in the cloud, you're allowed to deploy on-prem as well. And so what that does is that allows you to plan your own migration at whatever stage you need, whatever timeline you need to move things out, without having to pay two different licenses. And we also price our solution based on enrolled identities as opposed to monthly active users. When you saw this massive swing with COVID in digital transformation and the way users interacted and customers interacted, you saw organizations that had to deal with a huge price surge. So you want to look at that predictable pricing. So you're going to save costs, but you want to be able to make sure you have the right budget for that as well. The other thing you want to make sure you have is a complete identity and access management platform that can support your needs. And so, the ForgeRock Identity Cloud is fully configurable and customizable to not only fit your business workflows today, but it will also allow you to adjust them and change them as you move more things to the cloud, and as your organization grows and transforms. We'll be able to do that as well. And that also means being able to manage, not just identities, but things and service accounts and microservices. There's a lot of other technologies out there that are falling into that identity and access management bucket that need to have security. And lastly, you want to look at the security that's provided by the vendor. And if you look at the ForgeRock Identity Cloud, what we offer is full tenant isolation. What that means is that there's no exploitable backdoors for anybody else to get access into your cloud service. It also means that it eliminates any noisy neighbor type of situation where their workload is going to impact your performance. Along those lines, we don't commingle your data. It's all stored in one place, and you as a customer get to determine where you want to store that. And then we offer up to the minute security, because we're constantly patching our solution. We're constantly making sure the infrastructure is patched. And then as we add new authentication capabilities and security capabilities, they're going to become available to you instantly without having to go through an upgrade process. So these are the types of things that you want to look for in a hybrid cloud when you're choosing that, or you want to look for an identity management solution when you're choosing one to secure your hybrid cloud. So what I want to do is I want to quickly walk through what a typical hybrid migration process looks like for identity management. So the first thing here is you have your existing on-prem deployment, and what you're using is you use SAML or Federation to connect to your cloud devices or your mobile applications. Your legacy applications, they might integrate with this system, or they might have their own directory for authentication. So you probably have a few little identity silos here. Maybe some of your SaaS applications aren't 100% connected, and people are managing their own password there, which is generally going to mean they're just reusing their single sign-on password and storing it in the browser, which isn't the most secure way to go. So once again, you decided you need a new identity and access management solution, one that can handle everything. Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to turn on that service, and then you're going to configure that service to be the policy enforcement or the policy decision making center, or the identity and access management brain, so to speak. And so once all that moves up there, all the decision making, then we're just going to relay that information down to the on-prem solution, and we're going to have that solution go out and connect and do the authentication and authorization to all the applications they already have enabled. So that's the first thing that we're going to do in any solution, is get that policy enforcement and decision making to the cloud deployment. The thing about doing that is as soon as you're able to do that, you're able to leverage these new identity and access management capabilities. So you can get the latest multi-factor authentication, or you can get better user self-service, whether that's an integrated password reset that allows the user to return right back to where they were after their passwords reset, with a fully authenticated session, or whether that's context enabled user registration, where you register somebody based on the device. If it's a mobile device, you don't ask a lot of questions. If they're on a laptop, you do. But there's a lot of different modern capabilities that you can consume right then and there that are going to increase your security posture, make it easier for your employees to work while you are in the background, starting to move your applications over. So once you have those new technologies in place and you're consuming them, now what you're going to do is you're going to migrate your applications to connect directly to the cloud identity and access management solution. So you'll probably start on your cloud and mobile apps, and then you'll start deploying new edge controllers that can handle all your legacy apps on-prem. So that'll be whatever process it is. And here's a place where you need to make sure you take your time, because any outage of any of these applications can be very critical to your business. And then finally, once you have everything over, you can retire that on-prem identity and access management solution. You don't have to pay for the infrastructure. You don't have to maintain it, upgrade it, anything along those lines. Everything's going out to the cloud. All your decision making, all your authentications going out there. And now, as you take advantage of the new SaaS applications that are all modern authentication protocol, they're easily going to integrate into the cloud. And then you can also migrate your on-prem applications at your leisure. If you want to rewrite them, or if you just want to go through the edge controller as well, that's fine. So what this does is, now that you're here, you're going to eliminate any possibility of conflicting security policies. So now you have your one identity and access management solution that's securing your hybrid cloud. You can also see in this example that the edge component could be deployed on your premise or in your private cloud someplace else, to be able to do that authentication there real time, or to be able to enable those legacy applications quicker. So now let's just talk a little bit about a use case that we had here. We have a customer named Calabrio. They were a call center technology company, and what they really prided themselves is being able to provide the best customer service. And so they were doing so well with that they actually grew through acquisition. And what that did was that led to a bunch of identity silos in their offering. And so they took an effort at managing that themselves, try to develop their own homegrown solution to provide a unified identity across all of their applications, but that didn't work out the way they wanted it to. It just proved to be too complicated and take too long for them. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to find an identity and access management solution that would be enterprise capable, but have the speed of the cloud. So what they did, and then on top of that, they also needed to be able to support cloud as well as on-premise solutions, because their customers ran in both configurations. So they turned to us at ForgeRock to leverage our ForgeRock Identity Cloud as well as our identity and access management platform. So they're able to do one integration, and it met the needs for their on-premise and their cloud customers. Gave them that seamless user experience across all the services that they were looking for, and they prided themselves on. So once again, it's really, organization, they had identity silos due to this digital transformation and rapid growth. They leveraged the ForgeRock Identity Cloud to be able to provide a seamless user experience, increase security across all environments there. So just to wrap up, and before I go, I just want to give you some key points here to our discussion. The first thing you want to look at is hybrid flexibility. You want to look at the identity and access management solution that's going to support not only the cloud apps, but it has to support your legacy apps as well. And to be able to do this, you want to make sure they have common architectures and a single security policy while you're going through your migration, right? And so you also want to make sure that you can migrate at your own pace without any penalty of having to pay double licenses. So those are all types of things that you want to look at when you look at hybrid flexibility. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to leverage cloud security. There's a lot of organizations or anybody who's offering a SaaS service out there. What they're doing is they're providing all that. They have security teams that are monitoring their solution, patching the solution, making sure it's up to date. But what you also want to make sure is that you have that tenant isolation, that your data is not being commingled, and all of these things can lead to you being able to leverage their security infrastructure to check off your compliance needs as well. And then you want to be able to deploy that latest technology, right? So not only is it making sure those security patches are done very quickly, but you want to be able to take advantage of new things when they come to the market, whether that's like FIDO2, WebAuthn, authentication methods, or if it's new access protocols like macaroons are starting to come out. You want to make sure that you can leverage those as soon as they're there, or any of the context signals, right? We're seeing a lot more contextual type of signals that security solutions are adapting as well and utilizing to assess risk. So with that, I just want to say thank you. And if there's any questions, I'm here to take those.